Hi everybody, it's Honest John again. Now, Ronald Reagan is best known for two things. One of which he had absolutely nothing to do with. That is the fall of the Berlin Wall. He just happened to be sitting in the Oval Office when the Soviet Empire collapsed. It had nothing to do with him, it had everything to do with the leadership of that Soviet Union. He's also known for cutting taxes. But his big tax cuts mostly went to the rich, as that's what happens most of the time anyway. Reagan made a big deal about simplifying the tax code. But for most Americans, the tax code was not real complicated. It was only complicated if you were rich. And here's the way it used to work. Most people, except for the very poor, pay the basic tax rate. But if you were rich, the more money you made, the more it was taxed. I don't have the exact numbers, but basically, here's how it worked. If you made, say, $400,000 and under, you paid the basic tax rate on your income, somewhere in the 30th percentile. But as your income increased, the tax rate on that larger income also increased. So let's say you made another $1 million. You still paid that 30% on the first $400,000, but you would pay a higher tax rate on the next $600,000. And they were increasing tax rates on your income that topped off at 50%. So the rich didn't get taxed 50% on all of their income. They got taxed 50% on a certain percentage of their income. So let's say that you made $20 million. Not all of that $20 million would be taxed at 50%, but a certain amount of it would. So yeah, that is a bit complicated, but nothing that a good accountant couldn't figure out. Essentially what happened was that Reagan gave the richest people in America a massive tax break by eliminating the top rates, by getting rid of progressivity in the tax code, so that no matter how much money rich people made, they only paid the basic tax rate on it. Now, it's kind of a matter of dogma for conservatives that cutting taxes for the rich, or cutting taxes in general, generates revenue for the government and also creates jobs. But after the Reagan tax cuts, well, all that resulted was that there was less money coming into the government. So the deficit exploded. And as far as creating jobs went, well, the unemployment rate rose to over 10% under Ronald Reagan. So what did Reagan do? He raised taxes. But he didn't just raise taxes back on the rich, he raised taxes on everybody. So the rich kept most of their tax cut. But now everybody else was paying more. Reagan raised sales taxes, he raised taxes on pensions, he raised the payroll tax, but did not raise the payroll tax cap, so that still affected the middle class much more than it did the rich. He raised taxes on gasoline and alcohol and cigarettes, and he even raised taxes on your phone bill. Reagan often talked about broadening the tax base. What that means is getting people with less money to pay more taxes. Essentially, what Reagan did with his tax cuts and then his tax increases was transfer a big part of the tax burden from the very wealthy to everybody else. But the rich weren't satisfied with that. They weren't satisfied with their big, huge tax break. They wanted more. And so over the years, they sent their lobbyists and out and created more tax breaks for themselves. If they buy a private jet, the taxpayers help pay for it. Even people who will never ever ride in a private jet help the rich pay for it. If they buy vacation homes in addition to their main residence, well, they get tax breaks for that, which means that they are subsidized by everybody else. Even when companies send jobs overseas, there are tax breaks involved that help defray the costs that are involved with cutting jobs here and sending them overseas. So even people that lose their job actually help subsidize the rich sending jobs overseas. Donald Trump hasn't paid any taxes in who knows how long. And that's because there's a special break in the tax code for real estate people like him. Let's say that Donald Trump builds a hotel. Then, from then on, he gets to pretend that the hotel depreciates or loses value. Even as the property increases in value, he gets a tax break that enables him not to pay any taxes. And now that the Trump administration is in office, one of the things that they plan is a new round of tax cuts. And the middle class will get a tiny little bit of that tax cut, but the rich will once again get a massive tax cuts. And the corporations will too. Now, over the years, America has been plagued by an anti-tax movement, which was started by the rich and has managed to convince a lot of what I think are stupid people that tax cuts and loopholes for the rich are a good thing. That somehow that they benefit from those things. And somehow they think they will be better off if the rich don't pay their fair share of taxes. The truth is exactly the opposite. Tax breaks for the rich only benefit the rich, and they hurt everybody else. And it is because of these tax breaks, it is because of the anti-tax movement that our infrastructure is not being repaired and maintained, that our schools are so grossly underfunded that teachers have to buy necessities for their students out of their own pockets, and that tuition is no longer free at state universities. And students have to go deeply into debt in order to get an education. These are all things that have happened as a direct result of politicians' unwillingness and fear of taxing the rich. So I say it's time to stop coddling the rich. It's time not to give them another round of tax cuts. It's time to give them a round of tax increases and to eliminate those subsidies and those loopholes. And use that money to do all those things. Repair our infrastructure. Fund our schools. And give colleges enough so that they don't have to charge students outrageous fees in order to come to the school. When you think about it, the anti-tax movement has done more damage to this country than any terrorist. Thanks for listening.